Tonight, we walk the shadow-haunted streets of Tudor England to feel what it was truly like to be a secret keeper in a world where paranoia was survival and trust was a luxury you couldn't afford. This was a world where your teeth fell out from mercury exposure. Your handlers paid you in foreign coins that marked you as a spy, and success meant your employer would likely have you killed as a loose end. Before we unpack this magnificent career mistake, if you enjoy these types of historical reality checks, consider subscribing and dropping a comment with where you're listening from. Always fascinating to see who's awake at strange hours learning about people's terrible life choices. So take a slow, deep breath. Settle into your cozier spot. Let the world outside fade away as we dissolve into the torchlit darkness of London, 1596. The year is 1596. You're sitting in a cramped room above a London tavern, and your left hand won't stop shaking, because you've been handling mercury-laced invisible ink for the past 6 months. Welcome to the spectacular disaster that was being a Tudor spy. You know what nobody tells you about espionage in the age of Shakespeare? It wasn't about exotic poisons or court intrigue. It was about sitting in freezing attics, developing permanent nerve damage from toxic chemicals, and trying to decode whether the wheat harvest in Dover actually meant wheat, or whether someone was about to get stabbed. See, when most people think of Tudor spies, if they think of them at all, they imagine shadowy figures in black doublets, slipping coded messages under doorways, poisoning rivals with mysterious Italian potions. The reality, being a spy for Elizabeth I or her government, was about as glamorous as gradually poisoning yourself with mercury while living in constant fear of execution. You didn't sign up for this job. Nobody did. You got cornered into it like a rat in a Suffolk alley. Maybe you were William the law clerk who made the mistake of speaking French too well. Maybe you were Thomas the failed merchant who knew which Catholics still heard Mass in their cellars. Maybe you were just some university-educated fool who translated the wrong letter at the wrong time, and suddenly found yourself on Robert Cecil's payroll, which, by the way, paid about as regularly as a broken sundial tells time. The typical Tudor spy wasn't recruited. He was collected, like a debt. Here's how it worked. You had something they needed: literacy, languages, connections to the wrong people. They had something you couldn't ignore: the ability to destroy your entire family with a single accusation, call in every debt you'd ever accumulated, or suddenly remember that time you were drunk and said something unwise about the Queen's marriage prospects. It wasn't employment, it was extortion with paperwork. Your new boss, some mid-level government functionary who drank wine for breakfast, and definitely planned to blame everything on you if things went sideways. Your training? Here's a dead man's cipher book. Try not to bleed on it. Your retirement plan? Don't make me laugh. The lucky ones died of lead poisoning from handling too many wax seals. The unlucky ones went blind from years of reading coded messages by candlelight in windowless rooms, squinting at tiny script until their eyes gave out completely. These were what passed for natural deaths in the spy business, killed by your own tools rather than the hangman's rope. But here's the thing: even if you survived the poisoning, even if your eyes held out, even if you dodged the executioner's axe, you were still trapped in a life you couldn't share with anyone. You couldn't exactly strike up a tavern conversation with, "What do I do?" "Oh, I steadily poison myself while decoding death warrants for a government that will absolutely let me hang if I'm inconvenient." Not exactly drinking companion material, so forget any romantic notions about Tudor espionage. This wasn't a profession. It was a death sentence with irregular pay and catastrophic dental consequences. Welcome to the worst job interview you never asked for. Hope you're good with languages, because you're about to spend the rest of your probably short life drowning in other people's secrets. So how did people end up in this magnificent career mistake? How did someone go from living a normal, miserable Tudor life to becoming a professional keeper of dangerous secrets? Well, like everything else in this business, the story they tell and the truth are two very different things. Let's start with how you probably think Tudor spy recruitment worked. A mysterious gentleman in a velvet doublet approaches you at court. He's noticed your keen intellect, your loyalty to the crown over imported wine. He speaks of serving England's glory. You're special. You're chosen. You're about to become part of an elite brotherhood. There's probably a secret handshake involved. Maybe a dramatic oath by candlelight. Yeah. No. Here's how recruitment actually worked. You're Thomas the legal clerk, copying documents at Middle Temple for barely enough money to afford bread that doesn't have visible mould. One day, you make the catastrophic error of doing a private translation job for a French merchant. Just some boring letter about cloth prices. Easy money, right? Wrong. Because 3 weeks later, you're summoned to a meeting with Robert Cecil, Elizabeth's Secretary of State, and a man who collects human assets like some people collect butterflies. Except his butterflies are pinned to boards while still alive. You walk into that meeting thinking maybe it's about a real job opportunity. Instead, you walk out realising you've been owned since the moment you touch that French letter. Cecil already knows everything about you. He knows your sister married a Catholic. He knows your cousin studied at Douai. He knows you helped that French merchant with just a translation. He knows about that unpaid debt to the goldsmith on Cheapside, and he certainly knows about your failed attempt to avoid the subsidy tax last year. The conversation starts with Cecil complimenting your French. Very good, he says. Then comes what he calls a proposition. You understand immediately this is Tudor speak for offer you can't refuse unless you enjoy being tortured in the tower. The generous terms. You work for Cecil now. You report on Catholics, foreigners, anyone he points you at. In exchange, he doesn't destroy your life and everyone you've ever shared a meal with. Oh, and the pay? When he feels like it. Which is slightly less often than solar eclipses. But here's the truly brilliant part. You can't say no, because even considering his offer means you now know state secrets. Walking away makes you a security risk. You're trapped like a fly in amber, except amber doesn't slowly poison you with mercury fumes. Some recruits came through even worse channels. Maybe you were caught in a minor crime, petty theft, debt, public drunkenness. Instead of the stocks or prison, you get a visit from one of Cecil's men. Work for us, or enjoy your stay in Newgate where the plague is particularly festive this year. Others were intellectual show-offs who corrected someone's Latin at the wrong dinner party. Congratulations. You just demonstrated useful skills within earshot of a government informant. The recruitment wasn't an honour. It was a trap that snapped shut the moment you displayed any skill more complex than shoveling horse filth. Your handler hands you a manual, not a pristine training document, mind you. A stained coded book that belonged to the last spy. You know, the one who died of fever last month. The fever that left rope marks on his neck. He tells you to study it. Learn from the previous owner's successes. Learn more from his failures. The bloodstains on page 47 suggest his failures were particularly educational. You're not recruited. You're collected, catalogued and filed under expendable assets. Your code name isn't even creative. Probably just Asset 47. They don't bother with anything memorable, because they don't expect you to last long enough to matter. Welcome to government service, Tudor style, where the only thing more certain than death is that you won't get paid first. So, you've been trapped, threatened, and given a dead man's manual. Surely now comes the part where they teach you how to actually be a spy, where you learn all those mysterious skills that will keep you alive. Well, let me tell you about Tudor training. In your imagination, spy training happens in some hidden monastery. A grizzled master spy takes you under his wing. You learn exotic skills. How to forge any nobleman's seal. The art of creating poisons from common herbs. Silent movement techniques. How to blend into any social gathering. There are lessons in swordplay. Coded language systems. You practice dead drops. Memorize important faces. By the end, you're a finely tuned instrument of espionage. Your actual training? Here's a dead man's handbook. Try not to get blood on it. The blood that's already there, I mean. That's it. That's your training. Your handler meets you in a different terrible tavern each week. He's usually 3 drinks in before noon because, as he'll tell you between hiccups, the only way to survive this job is to pickle yourself from the inside out. Your handler's idea of training is spreading out papers on sticky tavern tables and telling you about all the spies who died horribly. There's Gilbert Gifford, who carried Mary Stuart's letters in beer barrels. Clever system. Too bad he forgot which side he was working for and died in a French prison. Or maybe he was poisoned. Your handler's not sure. The wine makes the details fuzzy. There's Anthony Babington, who wasn't even a proper spy, merely a rich idiot with Catholic sympathies. Still ended up taking 40 minutes to die on the scaffold, because the executioner was either incompetent or paid to be. This is your training. Not how to succeed, but a comprehensive catalogue of how your predecessors failed. Want to learn codes? Here's Thomas Philippe's old manual. Philippe's is still alive, technically, though years of working by candlelight have left him nearly blind, and the lead from his seal wax has given him the shakes. His manual is full of margin notes like use Bible verse numbers for dates, and hollow coins work once, guards check them now. Invisible ink training consists of more than just urine recipes. There's onion juice, makes you weep while writing. Milk, invisible until heated, spoils fast, and various acidic compounds that eat through your fingernails. No one mentions that part in the recruitment speech. Want to learn forgery? Hope you're naturally talented, because your instruction is make it look real or hang. You practice by candlelight in your attic room. The scuttling of rats in the walls your only company. No one checks your work until it matters. Then they check it very, very carefully, usually while you're under interrogation. Combat training? You're not going to fight anyone. You're going to run. If someone draws a blade on you, your training is to throw whatever's in your hands at their face and sprint for the nearest sewer grate. Social infiltration? You get a few fake names, and the advice to act natural. What's natural for a cloth merchant? Your handler doesn't know. He's never been one. Neither have you. Good luck selling that identity to actual cloth merchants, who will definitely notice you don't know wool from weaponry. The closest thing to real tradecraft you learn is how to spot when you're being watched. Your handler teaches you this by having different people follow you badly for a week. You also learn that the Spanish have their own network, usually Portuguese merchants. The French use their embassy staff, and the Catholic underground communicates through travelling priests who definitely aren't supposed to be in England. Oh, and that exotic knowledge about poisons? Here's what your handler knows. Some mushrooms kill you. Some make you purge yourself to death. The ones that look safe are usually the worst. Your training ends when your handler runs out of dead spies to tell you about, or when Cecil needs you for actual work, whichever comes first. You're given a final piece of advice. Trust no one, especially not other spies. Double, especially not your handler. And triple, especially not yourself once the mercury poisoning kicks in. Congratulations. You're now a trained Tudor intelligence operative. Your main skill is knowing exactly how many different ways this job can kill you. Your qualification is that you haven't died yet. Time to put that education to work. Of course, now that you're a trained spy with your shaking hands and terrible invisible ink recipes, you might be wondering about compensation. After all, you're risking your life for Queen and country. Surely there's decent pay involved. Oh, you sweet, naive fool. You're probably imagining pouches of gold sovereigns slipped into your hands after each successful mission. A generous annual stipend from the Queen's treasury. After all, you're risking your life to protect the realm. Surely England values such service appropriately. You can't exactly do clandestine work while worrying about rent, right? Let's talk about your compensation package. And I use that term so loosely it might as well be falling apart like wet parchment. First, the good news. You've been promised £10 for your current assignment. 10 whole pounds. That's more money than you've seen in one place since, well, ever. Now the bad news, you're not getting £10. You meet your handler at the Boar's Head Tavern after successfully intercepting those Spanish letters. It took you 3 weeks of establishing cover, 2 close calls with suspicious guards, and 1 terrifying night copying documents while the merchant dined downstairs. You hand over the intelligence, and your handler slides a purse across the sticky table. It lands with the wrong sound. Too light. The coins inside clink with an unfamiliar tone, not the solid thunk of English silver. You open it to find £4 in mixed currency that looks like it was scraped together from a pirate's reject pile. Dutch guilders, Spanish reals, a bent French EQ that might be counterfeit. The kind of coins that mark you as suspicious to anyone with eyes. Your handler sees your face and laughs. He tells you about Gilbert Gifford, who was promised £100 for carrying Mary Stuart's letters. Know what his widow got? 12, after he died in a French prison. Welcome to government accounting Tudor style, where promises are more like suggestions and payment schedules are works of fiction. The real economics of espionage are brutally simple. You'll always be paid just enough to keep you from starving, but never enough to escape. It's a carefully calibrated poverty. Too little and you might defect to Spain out of desperation. Too much and you might get ideas about retirement. So how do you survive? Creative financing. You start selling things. Everything. Your father's ring. Spanish gold. Worn smooth by 6 generations. The pawnbroker gives you £3 for something worth 10. Your teeth? Oh yes, those become currency too. The mercury from invisible inks has already made them loose. So why not monetize your occupational hazards? You steal paper from your legitimate copying work. You water down already watered wine. Your doublet now looks like a geography lesson in patches. The expense reports are their own special fiction. Everything becomes code. Fish for the ferryman means Thames waterman bribes. Candles for evening prayers means paying informants. Usually tavern keepers who report on suspicious strangers, or prostitutes who work the docks and hear sailors gossip. Wine for communion means, well, usually actual wine because your handler drinks half your operational budget. Cecil's government has perfected the art of the non-payment payment. When funds do arrive, they're late. When they're on time, they're light. When they're the full amount, they're in coins so dubious even criminals won't take them. And here's the truly brilliant part. You can't complain. You can't sue the Secretary of State for breach of contract. You can't go to court and say, Your Honour, I was promised £10 for intercepting treasonous correspondence, but only received 4 in what I suspect are counterfeit guilders. Your only recourse is to keep working, keep hoping, keep slowly poisoning yourself with mercury while your handlers promise that next time for sure, you'll get what you're owed. Some spies try to supplement their income with a little light blackmail or selling information to multiple buyers. Those spies tend to have very short careers ending in very long drops from very high scaffolds. So you make do. You develop what your handler calls the spy's diet. Bread that's more mould than grain, beer that's more water than alcohol, and the constant gnawing hope that tomorrow's payment might actually arrive. The Crown doesn't pay you to live. It pays you just enough to not quite die, and that apparently is considered generous. But surely even if the pay is terrible, at least they equip you properly. After all, you can't exactly spy with your bare hands and good intentions. There must be tools of the trade, clever devices to help you survive. Let me show you your professional equipment. Time to get equipped with the tools of the trade. You're expecting ingenious devices, hidden blade mechanisms, hollow heel compartments, perhaps a poison ring. There must be specialised lockpicks, invisible ink that appears only under moonlight. Your equipment would be cutting edge, perfectly balanced between concealment and function. Your actual toolkit. Brace yourself for disappointment so profound it has its own gravitational pull. Let's start with your primary gadget, invisible ink. You've got more options than you'd think, each worse than the last. Your basic toolkit. Urine, concentrated for 2 days. Onion juice, makes you weep. Milk, spoils fast. And mercury compounds that gradually poison you. But that's amateur hour. The professionals use more exotic methods. Alum water, invisible until heated, doesn't smell like a latrine. Lemon juice mixed with soot for messages that appear when rubbed with ash. Some even experiment with sympathetic inks that only appear when painted with a specific reagent. Though getting the reagent to your handler without arousing suspicion is its own nightmare. Former Tudor spy Thomas Phillips has been using mercury compounds for 20 years. Now he can't hold a cup without spilling, but his invisible ink recipe is flawless. Your weapons? You get a knife, not a special spy knife. Just a regular eating knife that you probably stole from a tavern. Lockpicks? You might have a few bent nails and a thin piece of metal. Your training consisted of your handler telling you to wiggle it around until something clicks or someone catches you. Paper is actually your most valuable tool and you can't afford it. Good paper costs more than a week's food, so you steal it from your day job. Scrape used parchments clean, or write in margins of books like some kind of scholarly vandal. One spy tried making his own paper. He's still picking splinters out of his fingers. Your cipher tools are whatever you can scratch together. No elegant encoding machines. Just paper strips, simple grids, and a brain slowly being poisoned by mercury fumes. Most of your codes are so basic a motivated child could crack them, but they're what you've got. Need to conceal documents. You're not getting specially crafted hidden pockets. You're sewing them into your doublet, lining yourself, with needles borrowed from a seamstress, and thread that is definitely not strong enough for the job. The documents chafe against your ribs and the stitching comes loose at the worst times. Want to carry multiple identities? No fancy document cases. You roll them up and stuff them in your boots where they get damp from sweat and street puddles. Nothing says legitimate merchant like pulling out papers that smell like feet and despair. The most sophisticated piece of equipment you might have is a hollow wooden staff or walking stick. Not government issued, mind you. You probably carved it out yourself after your handler mentioned offhand that some spies hide messages in them. Oh, and that poison ring from your fantasies. The closest you'll get is keeping some questionable mushroom powder wrapped in cloth in your purse. It might kill someone. It might make them mildly nauseous. It might be regular mushroom powder because you can't tell the difference. And neither could the herbalist who sold it to you while laughing behind his hand. The truth is, your most valuable tool is your ability to run away quickly. Everything else is just Tudor-era improvisation held together with hope, spit, and the knowledge that if any of it fails, you'll be explaining yourself to interrogators who have actual professional-grade equipment. And their equipment is designed for one thing, making you talk about your pathetic equipment. Still, even with your pathetic tools and poisonous ink, you need to get close to your target somehow. You can't exactly walk up to a Catholic safe house or a merchant's private correspondence announcing yourself as a government spy. You need cover identities, disguises, ways to blend in. So what master of disguise will you become? Now let's talk about Tudor cover and disguises. You slip seamlessly between identities. One day you're an Italian merchant and the next a wandering minstrel. Your collection of personas is varied and convincing. You speak with perfect accents, have elaborate backstories, custom-tailored outfits for each identity. You're a human chameleon impossible to pin down. Your actual disguise kit consists of one mud-stained cloak that reverses from black to brown, and whatever fake name your handler thought up while drunk. Meet your roster of thrilling alter egos: Thomas Merchant, cloth trader, William Scrivener, legal clerk, and when your handler was feeling particularly creative, John Player, unemployed actor. These aren't carefully crafted identities with detailed legends. They're barely sketched outlines that you're supposed to flesh out while actively committing treason. Thomas Merchant is your go-to cover. Why? Because it's boring enough that no one asks follow-up questions, and mobile enough to explain why you're always travelling. The problem? You know absolutely nothing about cloth. You can't tell wool from linen under torture. Your merchant costume is your regular clothes with maybe a different hat. If someone asks about Flemish wool prices, you just nod knowingly and mutter something about market fluctuations while sweating through your doublet. The backstories are disasters waiting to happen. You're supposed to be from Ipswich, but you've never been there. Your wife died of fever, convenient. Your children live with relatives in Norwich. You hope Norwich is a real place. And your business struggles because of those damn Dutch. Always blame the Dutch. But here's the real nightmare. Maintaining these identities without mixing them up. You walk differently as Thomas than as William. Thomas counts coins quickly with merchant disdain. William handles money slowly, reluctantly, like a lawyer begrudgingly touching filthy commerce. John the actor, he doesn't have money to count. The worst part is when your covers start to overlap. You meet someone as Thomas who later sees you as William. Your explanation that you have a twin brother who's also coincidentally travelling through Dover fools exactly no one. And forget about physical disguises. Wigs don't exist yet. If you need to look older, you rub ash in your hair. Need to look younger? Shave and pray. Your accents are whatever you can manage. Your French sounds like choking on cheese. Your Spanish sounds like French with a head cold. The real skill isn't becoming these people. It's remembering which lie you told to whom. Did you tell the innkeeper your wife died of plague or childbirth? Is your fictional son named James or John? Are you Catholic curious as Thomas but staunchly Protestant as William? Or was it the other way around? You keep notes, coded of course, but even you sometimes can't decipher your own panicked scribbles. T told B about wheat means either Thomas told Bardolph about wheat prices, or Thursday told Bailey about weapons. You won't know which until someone arrests you for the wrong one. The most successful disguise is being forgettable, not mysterious, not interesting, just another middle-aged man with debts and a nervous twitch. The kind of person whose name no one remembers even while you're talking to them. So you practice being nobody. Thomas Merchant, William Scrivener, John Player. They're all just different shades of beige. Boring enough to be invisible, suspicious enough to be constantly terrified. And when someone says they swear they've seen you before, you develop sudden digestive troubles and flee to the privy, where you sit calculating how fast you can reach Dover, versus how fast news of your blown cover can travel. Your disguise isn't a costume, it's a constant, exhausting performance where forgetting your lines means death. And here's the thing about constantly pretending to be someone else. About living every moment in fear of being discovered, it means you can never truly be yourself with anyone. Ever. Which brings us to the loneliest part of this already miserable existence. The life of a spy is romantically solitary. You're the mysterious stranger in the tavern corner, the man of few words but many secrets. Women find your dangerous profession irresistibly attractive. Men respect your silent strength. You have a network of fellow intelligence operatives, a brotherhood of shadows who understand the burden you carry. Perhaps you meet in secret locations, sharing drinks and war stories, bonding over your shared service to the crown. You're alone by choice, not circumstance. A lone wolf who could rejoin the pack whenever you choose. The reality is, you're not mysteriously alone. You're catastrophically, soul-crushingly isolated in ways that make hermits look social. Let's start with friends. You don't have any, not because you're too cool or mysterious, but because friends are liability incarnate. Every person who knows your real name is potential leverage for Cecil to use against you. Every drinking companion could be reporting your conversations. Every friendly face might be memorising yours for a future wanted poster. That cheerful blacksmith who waves every morning, can't trust him. The barmaid who remembers your favourite ale, she's probably noting how often you come and go. Even the stray dog you fed once follows you now and you're paranoid it's been trained by Spanish agents. You want to know true loneliness? Try having a conversation where you can't mention your real name, your actual job, where you really live, what you did yesterday, your plans for tomorrow, any opinion on religion, politics or the weather. because even weather talk can be coded. What's left? Nothing. You become a master of the non-conversation. How about that bread? Yes, it's very bread-like. Riveting. Let's talk about your love life, or rather the smoking crater where it used to be. You can't court anyone because you have no money. You can't use your real name. You definitely can't bring anyone home to your mercury-contaminated attic. Your hands shake, your teeth are falling out, and you smell like old urine. Any woman who shows interest might be a Spanish agent or one of Cecil's tests. One spy tried to maintain a relationship. His lover noticed the coded letters, the strange hours, the way he flinched whenever someone knocked. She thought he was having an affair. He couldn't explain that no, he was just committing light treason for the government. She left him for a baker. The baker doesn't randomly disappear for weeks or wake up screaming about cipher patterns. Even your fellow spies aren't friends. They're competition. Cecil deliberately sets multiple agents on the same targets. You're all racing to provide intelligence first, best, or most dramatically. That friendly fellow who claims to work for Walsingham's old network, he's probably reporting on you while you report on the Spanish. It's spies all the way down. Your handler isn't your friend either. He's your dealer, providing you with just enough work to keep you alive, and just enough contact to keep you sane. He views you the way a farmer views livestock. Useful, requiring minimal maintenance and eventually headed for slaughter. Family? Forget them. Your sister asks why you never visit. You can't explain that association with you could get her investigated. Your nephew's christening happens without you. Your mother's funeral is attended by a stranger in a hood who might be you, or might be another spy checking if you'll show up. Your brother thinks you're dead. It's safer that way. The isolation isn't just social, it's existential. You can't even be honest with yourself anymore. You've told so many lies, worn so many faces, that sometimes you forget which thoughts are yours, and which belong to Thomas Merchant or William Scrivener. You catch yourself practicing conversations alone, playing both parts. Nice weather? Yes, very nice. Not too nice though. No, precisely right. Your landlady hears you and adds another shilling to your rent for being touched in the head. The only relationship you have is with your own paranoia. It's always there, constant and reliable. It whispers that the new tenant upstairs walks too quietly. It notices that the butcher asked one too many questions about your travels. It's the only voice you trust, because at least paranoia is honest about trying to keep you alive. So you sit in taverns surrounded by people, completely alone. You listen to their normal problems, bad harvests, nagging wives, sick children, and envy them so hard it feels like physical pain. They get to be real people with real problems. You're just a ghost who hasn't stopped breathing yet. And ghosts, as everyone knows, don't get to retire. But surely after years of this soul-crushing service, after your body starts failing from all the mercury and your mind cracks from the isolation, surely there's some provision for aging spies. Some quiet end to this nightmare. Let's talk about your future. After years of loyal service to the crown, you're ready for your well-earned retirement. The Queen herself might not know your name, but surely Cecil appreciates your sacrifice. There must be provisions for aging spies who've given their best years to protecting the realm. Perhaps a modest pension, enough to buy a small cottage in the countryside. Maybe a position as a trainer, passing your wisdom to the next generation from the safety of a comfortable office. You'll write your memoirs, carefully edited, of course. Tend a garden. Die peacefully in bed at a respectable age. Your secrets safely buried with you. Retirement? Oh, that's adorable. Let me tell you about your actual retirement plan. It starts when your body begins failing in ways that make you useless for field work. After 7 years of mercury exposure, your hands shake so badly you can't forge a signature anymore. Your eyesight, ruined by years of candlelit cipher work, can't distinguish between a P and a Q. You've developed a facial tic that makes you about as subtle as a barn fire. Cecil summons you for a meeting. You think maybe finally some recognition. Instead, he looks at you the way a farmer looks at a lame horse. Still useful, but not for what it was bred for. He offers you a new position, training. Not because you're valued for your experience, but because you're too broken for anything else and too knowledgeable to release. You know which tavern keepers are informants, which merchants run the Catholic postal service, which dock workers will smuggle anything for the right price. That knowledge makes you valuable and dangerous. Your new job? Teaching fresh-faced recruits how to mix invisible ink in some back room that smells like failure and decay. You show them your scars. This one from learning to run quietly. This one from a botched escape in Dover. You teach them which poisons taste like what, how to spot a tail, how to lie so much you forget your own name. You watch their eager faces and see your own ghost. They think they're different, special. They won't end up like you, broken, shaking, forgotten. You don't tell them the truth. What's the point? They'll learn it themselves, probably from whoever trains their replacements. The retirement package is insulting. A small stipend, paid irregularly, some things never change. Just enough to keep you from selling secrets to Spain out of desperation. You get lodgings near the tower. How convenient. Not in it, but close enough that they can collect you quickly if needed. You're not allowed to leave London without permission. Can't write anything down without approval. Can't even die without someone checking you're not faking it to escape to France. Other retired spies become your only society. You meet in certain taverns, share certain looks, don't share names. You compare symptoms of mercury poisoning like old soldiers comparing war wounds. Everyone's hands shake, everyone's lost teeth, everyone jumps when doors slam. Some try to supplement their pathetic pension with consulting, using their skills for private clients. Those ones tend to disappear. Heart failure, they say. Funny how heart failure looks so much like strangulation. Others attempt to flee. Spain sometimes takes English defectors if they bring valuable intelligence. France might shelter you if you convert to Catholicism convincingly enough. But Cecil's network extends far. The last spy who tried to run made it all the way to Amsterdam, before someone slipped something unfortunate into his wine. His family back in England? They had a series of accidents, most tragic. The worst part? You're still working, even in retirement. Cecil has you watching the new recruits, reporting on their progress, their weaknesses, their likelihood of betrayal. You're training your replacements while spying on them. You know which ones are taking Spanish gold on the side, which ones are drinking too much, which ones have started shaking from the mercury. It's intelligence work all the way down. Your health deteriorates rapidly. Mercury poisoning from years of invisible ink work. Lead poisoning from seal wax. Stress-related illnesses that Tudor physicians called melancholy, or distraction of the mind. What we'd recognise as anxiety so severe it caused physical symptoms. Heart palpitations, trembling, inability to sleep. Digestive problems that left you unable to keep food down. Your joints are destroyed from hiding in cramped spaces, under floorboards, inside walls. Anywhere a man could fold himself to avoid detection. Your eyes are failing from reading coded messages by candlelight. Sometimes you forget which Thomas you are. Merchant, scrivener, your actual name. Was Thomas ever your actual name? One winter morning, your landlady finds you cold in your bed. The official record says natural causes. Your few possessions are quickly collected by men who don't give names. Your papers are burned. Your codes are retired. The room is rented to another retired spy within the week. There's no funeral, no marker, no record you existed except a brief note in Cecil's files. Asset 47, terminated naturally, no security concerns. Your legacy? The next broken spy trainer who tells recruits about the fool who thought he'd get a cottage and a pension. They laugh. You'd have laughed too once. Before you understood that in Tudor intelligence, retirement is just death with paperwork. From recruitment to retirement, if you can call dying in a gutter retirement, every single day of a Tudor spy's life was a masterclass in misery. So let's take one final look at this spectacular career choice, shall we? Let's add up the full cost of serving Queen and Country in the shadows. The spectacular reality of being a Tudor spy was this. You weren't James Bond in a doublet. You were Thomas the Nervous Clerk with mercury poisoning, lead-addled from seal wax, half-blind from candlelight work, and joints that creaked from too many nights folded inside priest holes. Let's review your glamorous career. Chronic poisoning from multiple sources, advanced paranoia comes standard, vision loss from years of candlelight cipher work, stress-induced melancholy with physical symptoms, dental plan equals your teeth falling out, joint damage from professional contortionism, retirement community and an unmarked grave. You spent your days decoding messages using Bible verses and playing cards, messages that usually turned out to be about actual cloth prices. Your nights were spent mixing toxic chemicals, while carrier pigeons cooed ominously in your attic. Your contacts were tavern keepers, dock prostitutes, and merchants who'd sell their grandmother for Spanish gold. The tools of your trade weren't sophisticated gadgets, but hollowed coins until guards caught on. False-bottomed chests and messages hidden in everything from glove linings to musical notation. You couldn't trust anyone. Your handler might be a double agent. The Spanish were watching you. The French kept files on you. The Catholics wanted you dead. Even other English spies were competition, not colleagues, and you couldn't quit. Try to run to Spain, Cecil's network would find you. Defect to France, your family back home would have unfortunate accidents. Stay in England, slow death by poison and paranoia. The real joke. The intelligence you gathered, decoded with your failing eyes and trembling hands, usually confirmed what Cecil already knew. You were expensive, poisonous bureaucracy, a make-work program for desperate educated men who knew Latin when they should have known to keep their mouths shut. So no, you wouldn't last a day as a Tudor spy, not because you lack courage, but because you probably value having teeth, functioning joints, and the ability to trust another human being occasionally. The Tudor intelligence service wasn't cool. It wasn't glamorous. It was a meat grinder that turned desperate men into broken tools, then discarded them. So as you drift off tonight, perhaps spare a thought for those forgotten spies. Those desperate souls who gave everything and got nothing in return. Their names are lost, their suffering forgotten, their sacrifices unmarked. But you get to close your eyes in peace. Your hands don't shake from mercury. Your teeth remain in your head. Your name is your own. And tomorrow you'll wake to a world where invisible ink comes in convenient pens, not chamber pots. Rest well in your comfortable bed, far from the terrors of Tudor London, far from the poisoned quills and coded fears, far from a life where every shadow could hide a blade and every friend could be an enemy. Sleep peacefully, knowing you'll never have to live that particular nightmare,